Charles III became king in 2022 after the death of Elizabeth II, Britain's longest reigning monarch. Charles' full name is Charles Philip Arthur George, and he could have become King George VII, but instead took the controversial name King Charles III. The first King Charles was executed, and the second was a womanizer forced into exile. Charles III is not descended from Charles I, or from his son Charles II, as he had no legitimate children, leading to the House of Stuart losing the throne. Charles II's cousin, Sophia Electress of Hanover, who was the granddaughter of James I and the daughter of Charles I's sister, Elizabeth Stuart, became heir presumptive to the British throne, with her son George I becoming king. So Charles III is descended from James I, but not Charles I. James I reigned from 1603 to 1625, the first king to rule both England and Scotland. Charles I reigned from 1625 to 1649, believed in the divine right of kings, and ruled as an absolute monarch. King Charles I was defeated in the English Civil War and surrendered in 1646 to be held as a prisoner. Following parliamentarian victory in 1648, 59 judges, including Oliver Cromwell, found Charles I guilty of high treason as a tyrant, traitor, murderer, and public enemy, and he was beheaded in January 1649. The Scottish Parliament then proclaimed Charles II as king in February 1649, but this was not recognized by the parliamentarian forces in England, who continued to oppose him. Cromwell defeated Charles II at the Battle of Worcester in 1651, but he avoided capture by hiding in an oak tree while parliamentarian soldiers searched for him, until he fled to France where he lived in exile. Oliver Cromwell died in 1658, and this led to a weakening of his parliamentarian forces, which gave royalists the opportunity to form a new parliament and restore the monarchy. Charles II was then invited back from exile in the Netherlands to be king under a restored monarchy in 1660. Charles II reigned from 1660 to 1685, had at least 12 children with mistresses, but none with his wife. James II reigned from 1685 to 1688, overthrown by William III in the Glorious Revolution. In 1688, James II had a son, James Francis Edward, who would be raised Catholic and who would be heir to the throne, which removed his Protestant daughter Mary from being next in line. James II also attacked the Church of England in 1688 by prosecuting 7 bishops, which resulted in anti-Catholic riots and destroyed his authority. This compelled English politicians, soldiers, and leaders of the Church to invite William III of the Netherlands to intervene. William III needed more military power to fight France, and seeing an opportunity to gain it, landed in England with 20,000 men and marched to London, with most of the English army joining him along the way. This forced James II and his family to flee into exile, allowing William and Mary to be crowned joint monarchs of England. Mary II reigned from 1689 to 1694, joint reign with William III, who was her husband and first cousin. William III reigned from 1689 to 1702. Charles I's grandson, who was stadtholder in the Netherlands and King of England at the same time. Anne reigned from 1702 to 1714, was the last monarch from the House of Stuart. Sophia, Electress of Hanover, became heir to the British throne due to the Act of Settlement 1701, which allowed only Protestants to ascend to the throne. She was the Protestant granddaughter of James I of England, but died 2 months before becoming queen, leaving her son George I to become king. George I reigned from 1714 to 1727, unpopular due to his inability to speak English, but spoke fluent German and French. George II reigned from 1727 to 1760, born in Hanover, Germany, and was the last British monarch to lead his army into battle. In 1745, Charles Edward Stuart, grandson of James II, landed in Scotland to lead the Jacobite rising with the aim of restoring the Stuart monarchy. However, by 1746, Charles Stuart, known as Bonnie Prince Charlie, was defeated at the Battle of Culloden, and this ended his attempt to restore the Stuarts, which could have crowned a very different King Charles III if Bonnie Prince Charlie had succeeded. George III reigned from 1760 to 1820, lost both the American Revolutionary War and the American colonies during his reign. George IV reigned from 1820 to 1830, ruled as Prince Regent from 1811 due to George III's mental illness. William IV, reigned from 1830 to 1837, had 10 children outside his marriage but no surviving legitimate children. Victoria, reigned from 1837 to 1901, expanded the British Empire during her reign and became known as the grandmother of Europe, with many of her children marrying into European royalty. Edward VII, reigned from 1901 to 1910, the last British monarch to have real political power. George V, reigned from 1910 to 1936, renamed the house to Windsor due to anti-German sentiment during the First World War. Edward VIII, reigned in 1936, abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson from the United States. George VI, reigned from 1936 to 1952. First reigning British king to visit the United States. Elizabeth II, reigned from 1952 to 2022, the longest reigning British monarch at over 70 years. Charles III, reigned from 2022 and is the current king, was the longest-serving heir to the British throne. The heir to the throne is now William, Prince of Wales. Second in the line of succession is his eldest son, Prince George of Wales.